Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the USA English Podcast. We're so happy you're here to practice with us today. I'm Erica.
And I'm Marco. We're your guides to help you speak English more naturally and with confidence through real, everyday conversations.
Today, we have an incredibly practical topic for you. We're going to cover 100 key phrases for online meetings in English. These will help you sound professional and self-assured.
This is such an important topic these days. So many of us are working or studying from home. If you have to join meetings in English, this episode is going to be a game changer for you.
Absolutely. We'll go over everything from introducing yourself and asking questions to sharing your ideas and dealing with those annoying technical glitches.
And the whole conversation will be natural, so it's great listening practice too. If you find this helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.
So, Marco, are you ready to dive into the world of online meetings?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
How's your day going, Marco?
You know, I'm feeling a little drained, Erica. I had 3 online calls this morning even before we started recording.
3? That sounds intense. What were they all about?
One was with our video editor, another was to plan content for next week, and the third was with a potential sponsor. It was just one after the other.
Oh, I know that feeling well. Did you manage to have your camera on for all of them?
Funny story. In the very first meeting, I was talking for a good 2 minutes before I realized I was still on mute. Everyone was waiting for me to respond, and I had no idea.
That happens to everyone. I did the exact same thing last week. I kept saying, "Yes, I agree," to a question, and finally someone typed in the chat, "Erica, you're on mute."
Wait, you? You're usually so on top of things. It just goes to show that everyone makes mistakes in the virtual world, which is exactly why this topic is so useful.
By the way, what did you get up to this weekend?
I was actually preparing for today. I watched a few recorded business meetings online and practiced some of the professional phrases we're going to talk about. How about you?
I made a list of all the common difficulties people face. Things like bad connections, figuring out when it's your turn to speak, and how to disagree without being rude.
Perfect. That's exactly what we need. Online meetings are a completely different ballgame from in-person ones.
I made a list of all the common difficulties people face. Things like bad connections, figuring out when it's your turn to speak, and how to disagree without being rude.
Perfect. That's exactly what we need. Online meetings are a completely different ballgame from in-person ones.
They really are. You miss out on body language, the sound can cut out, and you need the right words to be polite and professional. Ready to get into the main conversation?
Let's do it.
Okay, Marco, let's pretend we're helping someone who has their first online meeting in English tomorrow. What's the very first thing they need to think about?
Well, even before the meeting starts, you need the technical phrases. What do you say if you can't get on?
Good point. So, technical phrases first. When you log on, you might have to ask, "Can you hear me okay?" or "Is my audio coming through clearly?"
Exactly. And if you're sharing something, you'd ask, "Can you see my screen?" I use that one constantly. Another really common one is, "I'm experiencing some connection issues." That's your go-to for a slow internet connection.
What does connection issues mean exactly?
It just means problems with your internet. The video might freeze or your voice might cut in and out. You could also say, "My internet connection is a bit unstable right now."
Got it. And if you can't see someone else's shared screen, what then?
You could say, "I'm having trouble seeing your screen," or "Your screen isn't appearing on my end."
Okay, so those are the tech issues sorted. But when the meeting officially begins, how do you greet everyone in a professional way?
That's a great question. When you first join, a simple "Good morning, everyone," or "Hello, everyone," works perfectly.
What if you're running late? I have a habit of that.
I know. If you're late, it's polite to apologize. You can say, "Apologies for being late," or "Sorry, I'm joining a bit late." It's nice to give a short reason, like, "I was just in another meeting that ran over," or "I had a small technical difficulty."
That's a good tip. I usually just say sorry, but giving a little context is more professional.
Definitely. It shows you're considerate. After the greeting, you might need to introduce yourself, especially if there are new participants.
Right. So how do you do that professionally?
You can say, for those I haven't met, I'm Marco from the audio team. Or, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Erica, and I'm in charge of content.
So name and your role. What if you don't have an official title, like a student?
You can still give context. Say, I'm a student in the design program, or I'm joining from our Paris office. Just help people understand where you fit in.
That makes sense. Now, once everyone's settled, someone has to kick things off. What phrases does the leader use?
The person running the meeting usually says, let's get started, shall we? Or simply, shall we begin?
Short and simple. What else?
They'll often state the goal. We're here today to talk about the new marketing campaign. Or, the main objective for today is to finalize the budget.
The main objective for today is... I like that. It sounds very professional.
Yes, and then they'll outline the plan or the agenda. For example, first we'll go over the design, then we'll move on to the timeline. We'll finish with any questions.
So it gives everyone a roadmap for the meeting.
Exactly.
Now, during the meeting, it's important to be active, but how do you jump into the conversation without interrupting?
That can be tricky. You want to be polite. You can say, if I could just add something here, or would it be all right if I shared a thought?
Would it be all right if is very polite. What if someone is already speaking?
Wait for a small pause. Then you can say, sorry to interrupt, but may I just jump in for a moment? Jump in is a great phrasal verb for joining a conversation.
Okay, jump in. I like that. Another good one is building on what Name just said. It shows you were listening and are adding to their idea.
That's a very smooth and respectful way to contribute. So when you want to give your own opinion, you might say, I think.
That works, but there are more impactful ways. You could say, in my view, or from where I stand, or it seems to me that.
Those sound much more formal and considered. When would you use them?
In any business or academic setting, they sound more thoughtful and professional than a simple, I think.
Good to know. And if you agree with someone?
You can say, I totally agree with you on that, or that's an excellent point, or simply, I feel the same way.
And disagreeing? That's the hard part.
It is. You can't just say, that's wrong. It comes across as very rude. I learned that lesson the hard way.
We've all been there. So what's the right approach?
You need to be diplomatic. Start by acknowledging their point. I understand your perspective, however, or that's an interesting idea, but have we considered? Or I see it a bit differently.
So you validate their idea first before presenting your own.
Exactly. It shows respect. You could also say, I take your point, but what about... That's a very tactful way to disagree.
Being tactful, that means being polite and not causing offense, right?
Precisely. You handle sensitive topics carefully.
I need to remember that. Now, what about asking questions? That's how we learn.
Definitely. If something isn't clear, you should ask. You can say, could you please clarify that? Or, I'm not sure I understood. Could you explain what you mean by...
I sometimes worry that asking questions makes me look unprepared.
It's actually the opposite. It shows you're engaged and listening. You can also check your understanding by saying, so if I've understood correctly, you're proposing that we...
That's a great way to confirm. What if you need more detail?
Then you ask, could you go into more detail on that? Or would you be able to expand on that point?
Expand on that? Meaning to explain it more fully.
Yes, exactly. To give more information.
Okay. Now, what about when it's your turn to present something?
First, you need permission. May I share my screen now? Or, I'd like to share my screen if that's all right. Then you confirm everyone can see it. Is my screen visible to everyone? Or, can you all see my screen okay?
And during the presentation itself?
You guide people's attention. Use phrases like, as you can see from this slide, or this graph illustrates, or if you look at the top of the screen.
And to move between topics?
Use transition phrases. Now let's turn to the next point, or moving on to the budget, or I'd also like to show you.
What if someone asks a question while you're presenting?
You have two choices. You can answer right away, or you can politely ask them to wait. That's a great question. Would you mind if I address it at the end? Or, let me just finish this section, and then I'll be happy to take questions.
So you're managing the timing politely. And after you finish?
You say, that concludes my presentation, or that's all I have for now. Are there any questions? Or, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Perfect. Now, what if you need someone to do something for you after the meeting?
Always be polite. Could you please send me that document? Is good. Would you mind sharing the notes from today? Is even softer.
What does would you mind mean exactly?
It's a very polite way of asking. It means, is it okay with you? Or would it be a problem for you? Another gentle way is, I was hoping you could. As in, I was hoping you could look over these figures for me. Those are all very considerate. And what about offering your own help? Simple. Is there anything I can help with? Or would you like me to? Or I'd be glad to take care of that.
Nice. What if you need a moment to think about a question?
You can say, let me think about that for a moment and I'll get back to you. Or I need to look into that and I'll follow up after the meeting.
Follow up. That means to contact someone later with the information, right?
Yes, exactly. It means to return to the topic with an answer or update.
Now, let's talk about problems. What if you can't hear someone?
You can politely say, I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you please say it again? Or, could you speak up a little? I'm having trouble hearing you.
I missed that, meaning I didn't catch what you said.
Yes, and if their voice is breaking up, you can say, you're cutting out a bit, or your audio is very choppy.
And if it's your connection that's bad?
Apologies, my audio seems to be unstable. Let me turn my camera off, that might help. Or, I'm going to try reconnecting. Bear with me for one moment.
Good advice. What about when you need to leave early?
It's best to mention it at the start. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'll need to drop off at 3 for another appointment. When it's time to go, you say, I'm so sorry, but I have to leave now. Or, I need to head off. Thanks, everyone.
Head off. Another casual way to say leave.
Yes, a little less formal than leave.
Okay, we're nearing the end. What are the closing phrases?
The leader will start to wrap up. They might say, let's start wrapping up. Or, we're almost out of time, so let's begin to close.
Wrap up, meaning to finish.
Right. Then they'll summarize. So just to quickly recap the main points, or to sum up what we've decided.
And then come the action items.
Exactly. So to confirm the action items, Marco, you'll send the draft by Thursday. Erica, you're going to contact the client, correct? This makes responsibilities clear.
And deadlines. We need that finalized before the next meeting. If you're unsure about your task, you should ask, just to be clear, you'd like me to...
Yes, always better to ask for confirmation. Then the next meeting is scheduled. Let's find a time for our next meeting. How does next Tuesday look for everyone? Or I'll send out an invitation for next week.
And finally, the goodbyes.
You thank everyone. Thank you all so much for your time. Or, this was a really productive session. Thanks, everyone. Or, great discussion, everyone. Have a good day.
Productive, meaning we got things done. Then a simple bye, everyone, or talk to you all soon.
Perfect.
Erica, we've covered so many scenarios. What if someone asks for your opinion directly? Marco, what's your take on this?
Then you need to respond clearly. You can start with, well, from my perspective, or in my experience. If you need a moment, it's fine to say, that's a good question. Give me 1 second to think about it.
And if you genuinely don't know the answer?
Be honest. Say, I'm not entirely sure about that, or I don't have that information at hand, but I can research it and get back to you. That's much better than guessing. You could also say, that's not really my area of expertise.
Area of expertise. The subject you know most about.
Exactly. And if you want to propose a new idea?
You can say, what if we tried this? Or I'd like to suggest that we, or maybe we could consider this. Or how would you feel about this?
All excellent ways to put an idea forward. One more thing. What if the meeting goes completely off topic?
If you're the leader, you can gently steer it back. This is an interesting point, but perhaps we can save it for another meeting and get back to the main agenda. Or, I want to make sure we cover everything, so let's refocus on...
And if you're not the leader, you can still help. Just to help us stay on track, should we return to the topic of, that's polite and helpful.
These phrases are pure gold. I wish I'd had this years ago.
Well, now our listeners will be well prepared. We've gone from technical issues to introductions to participating, presenting, problem solving, and closing. That's a complete meeting from start to finish.
You know, while we were talking, we used a lot of really important words. Let's take a moment to break them down.
Great idea. Let's review some key vocabulary.
First word, connection issues. This refers to problems with your internet. If your video freezes, you have connection issues. For example, sorry everyone, I'm having connection issues. Can you still hear me?
Another example, his connection issues made the conversation difficult to follow. My internet at home isn't great, so I say this all the time.
You need a better provider, Erica. Okay, next word, mute. As a verb, it means to turn off your microphone. The opposite is unmute.
The classic mistake. For example, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? Or, I had to mute myself because my neighbor started mowing the lawn.
What's your most embarrassing mute story?
I once had a whole conversation with my cat, thinking I was on mute. I was not.
Amazing. Next word, interrupt. This means to stop someone while they're speaking. It's usually rude, which is why we have polite phrases like, sorry to interrupt.
For example, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're running out of time. The noun form is interruption. Sorry for the interruption.
I try not to, but sometimes I get too excited about an idea.
As long as you apologize first. Next word, elaborate. This means to give more details. If someone asks you to elaborate, they want you to explain more fully.
For instance, that's an interesting concept. Could you elaborate on how it would work? Or let me elaborate. What I'm proposing is...
A very useful word, related to explanation and details. You use it when an idea is interesting but not fully clear.
Makes sense. Next, clarify. This means to make something clear or easier to understand. You ask for clarification when you're confused.
Yes. Could you clarify the deadline for this project? Or, just to clarify, the meeting is on Thursday, not Friday. The noun is clarification. I need some clarification on this point.
I ask for clarification all the time. It's better than making a mistake.
Much better. Next, wrap up. This phrasal verb means to finish or conclude. Let's wrap up the meeting here. Or, to wrap up, I'd like to thank everyone.
Can you use it outside of meetings?
Sure. I need to wrap up this report by 5 p.m. It's more casual than conclude.
Got it. Next, follow up. This means to return to a topic later with more information or to check on progress.
I'll follow up with you via email about that. Or, did you ever follow up with the supplier? It can also be a noun. I'll send a follow-up email with the action items.
I need to get better at that. I often forget.
Set reminders on your phone. Next, action item. This is a specific task assigned to someone after a meeting.
For example, your action item is to book the venue. Or, let's review the action items from our last meeting.
They usually have a person and a deadline. If you can't do yours on time, you need to communicate that early. I'm worried I won't meet my deadline for that action item. Can we discuss an extension?
Good advice. Next word, agenda. This is the plan or list of topics for a meeting.
Did everyone get a copy of the agenda? Or let's stick to the agenda to make sure we finish on time. A meeting without an agenda can be a mess.
I always check the agenda beforehand so I can prepare.
Smart. Next, productive. This adjective means achieving a lot, useful and effective. It was a very productive meeting. We made 5 decisions.
The opposite is unproductive. That was a completely unproductive hour. What makes a meeting productive for you?
A clear agenda, active participation, and clear action items at the end.
Perfect answer. Last word, expertise. This noun means a high level of skill or knowledge in a particular area.
We need someone with financial expertise on this team, or that's outside my area of expertise. The adjective is expert. She's an expert in digital marketing.
So what's your area of expertise, Erica?
I'd say my expertise is in making English grammar feel simple and approachable. What about you?
My expertise is probably audio editing and trying to stay awake during really long, boring meetings.
A very useful skill. Okay, so our key vocabulary today is connection issues, mute, unmute, interrupt, elaborate, clarify, wrap up, follow up, action item, agenda, productive, and expertise.
All essential for any online meeting.
Marco, that was a marathon session on online meetings.
I know, my brain is full. but let's quickly go over the main points again to help our listeners remember.
Good idea. First, we started with technical phrases. Can you hear me? Is my audio working? Can you see my screen? And I'm having connection issues.
Then greetings and introductions. Good morning, everyone. And if you're late, apologies for joining late. And to introduce yourself, for those who don't know me, I'm Marco.
Next, starting the meeting. Let's get started. The purpose of today's meeting is, and setting the agenda with, first we'll discuss X, then Y.
Then we learned how to participate. To join in, if I may, I'd like to add, to give an opinion, from my perspective, to agree, that's an excellent point. To disagree politely, I see what you're saying, however.
We also covered asking questions. Could you clarify that? And could you elaborate on that? And presenting, may I share my screen? And as you can see from this slide,
We talked about making polite requests. Would you mind? And I was wondering if you could. And handling problems. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Or you're cutting out.
finally, we learned how to end a meeting. Let's wrap up. To summarize, assigning action items, Marka, you'll handle that, and saying goodbye. Thank you all for your time.
When you put it like that, it's a very clear structure. Learn these phrases and you can handle any part of a meeting with confidence.
Now it's your turn. This is our favorite part of the podcast.
Yes, we love reading your comments. Our question of the day is, what is your biggest challenge with online meetings in English? And which phrase from today's lesson will you try to use in your next meeting?
For me, my biggest challenge is dealing with fast talkers. So the phrase I'm going to use is, I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you please repeat it?
Good one. My biggest challenge is people talking over each other. I need to be more confident, so I'll use, if I may, I'd like to finish my thought.
See, everyone's different. So tell us in the comments. Write, my biggest challenge is, and I'll use the phrase. For example, my biggest challenge is feeling nervous, and I'll use the phrase, from my perspective.
We read every comment, and it really helps us make better episodes. Plus, writing things down helps you remember them.
So please, comment below. We hope you found this episode useful.
If you did, please give us a thumbs up. It helps other learners find us too.
And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an episode.
Keep practicing. Confidence comes from practice, and it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn.
Try using just 2 or 3 of these phrases in your next real online meeting. You'll be amazed at the difference it makes.
All right, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.